I never thought hunger could be beautiful until I saw it reflected in someone else's eyes. The clock above the kitchen door read 11:47 p.m. 13 minutes until my shift ended. 13 minutes until I could peel off these grease-stained clothes and walk the 40-minute trek back to my studio apartment, if you could call a converted storage room with a hot plate an apartment. Table 7's cleared, Mara, Jesse called from the bar, already counting his tips. He'd made twice what I had tonight. But then again, Jesse didn't have to dodge handsy customers or smile through comments about how I'd look better serving drinks in something tighter. I grabbed the gray bus tub and headed to table 7, my feet screaming in protest. The lunch shift at Romano's Diner was supposed to be temporary 6 months ago, but temporary became permanent when Mom's medical bills started arriving like clockwork, each one more devastating than the last. The table was a mess. Whoever had sat there had money, I could tell by the barely touched plates. Half a steak, medium rare and glistening, roasted vegetables still steaming, garlic mashed potatoes that probably cost more than my entire dinner budget for the week. My stomach growled so loudly I glanced around to make sure no one heard. I'd eaten at 2 p.m. A protein bar I'd split into 3 pieces to make it last. The morning had been black coffee and optimism. Dinner would be whatever I could afford after setting aside money for Mom's prescriptions. The restaurant was empty now except for Jesse wiping down the bar and Tony, the night manager, locked in his office doing paperwork. The kitchen staff had left through the back 10 minutes ago. Just me and the ghosts of expensive meals I'd never taste. My hand moved before my brain could stop it. I picked up the fork, glanced over my shoulder one more time, and took a bite of the steak. Heaven. God, it was heaven. Butter and herbs and some kind of wine reduction that made my eyes close involuntarily. I took another bite, then another. My heart hammered against my ribs. Part shame, part desperation, part pure animal relief. Hungry? The voice came from directly behind me. I spun around so fast the fork clattered against the plate. My face burned hotter than the kitchen grills. He stood 3 feet away, hands in the pockets of a black wool coat that probably cost more than my rent. Tall over 6 feet easily, with dark hair swept back from a face that belonged in old Italian paintings. Sharp jawline, full lips, and eyes so dark they looked black in the dim restaurant lighting. But it wasn't his looks that made my breath catch. It was the way he looked at me, like he could see through my skin straight into the hollow, desperate place where I kept all my secrets. I was just clearing the table, I stammered, setting down the fork. You were eating. His voice was low, smooth, with an accent that suggested money and power and places I'd never. My steak specifically. My throat closed. I'm sorry. I'll pay for it. How much do you make here? The question hit me sideways. What? He took a step closer. I could smell him now, expensive cologne, leather, and something darker underneath. Something that made my instincts scream danger even as my body refused to move. How much do they pay you to work yourself to exhaustion and then eat leftovers when you think no one's watching? That's none of your business. The words came out braver than I felt. His lips curved. Not quite a smile. Something more predatory. Everything in this city is my business, Mara. Ice water flooded my veins. How do you know my name? He gestured to my name tag, but his eyes never left mine. You're hungry. Not just tonight. Every night. I'm fine. I lifted my chin, even though I was trembling. And you need to leave. We're closed. I own this building. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. The restaurant, the apartments above it, the parking lot across the street. He pulled one hand from his pocket and I saw the glint of a silver watch that could have fed me for 6 months. I own a lot of things in this neighborhood, but I've never seen someone so desperate they'd risk their job for a few bites of cold steak. Shame crawled up my spine. If you're here to fire me, I'm here because I was supposed to meet someone. He didn't show. His eyes darkened with something that made the air feel heavy. Fortunate for you, I don't usually return to places where I conduct business. Business. The word hung between us like a threat. I should go. I moved to step around him, but he shifted just enough to block my path without actually touching me. What if I told you, he said quietly, that you never have to be hungry again? My heart stopped. What? What if I told you that tomorrow morning, you could wake up as the owner of this restaurant instead of its most desperate employee? I laughed. It came out sharp and devala, slightly hysterical. Then I'd say you're either crazy or playing some kind of sick game. Neither. He reached into his coat and pulled out a business card. Black, with silver lettering I couldn't read in the dim light. But I am serious. Nobody gives away restaurants to strangers. I don't give anything away. His voice dropped lower, more dangerous. I make investments, and something tells me you'd be very valuable to the right person. Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to run. This man was danger wrapped in expensive clothes and pretty words. The way he stood, the way he spoke, the casual mention of business and ownership, all of it pointed to a world I wanted nothing to do with. But God help me. I took the card. His fingers brushed mine as I did. The touch lasted half a second but burned like a brand. My driver will pick you up at 6 a.m., he said. Be ready. I don't even know your name. He smiled then, full and devastating and absolutely terrifying. Yes, you do. You just don't want to admit it yet. Then he turned and walked out, leaving me standing in an empty restaurant with a half-eaten steak, a black business card, and the terrible certainty that my life had just changed forever. I looked down at the card. Silver lettering spelled out a single name, Dante Salvatore. My blood turned to ice. Oh God, everyone in this city knew that name. I didn't sleep. How could I, knowing that Dante Salvatore, the Dante Salvatore, had stood 3 feet away from me while I ate stolen food like some kind of feral animal. The Salvatores weren't just wealthy. They were the kind of powerful that made politicians nervous and police officers look the other way. The kind of family that appeared in newspaper articles with words like alleged and suspected, carefully placed before every accusation. And I'd just agreed to get into a car with their leader at 6 a.m. Stupid, Mara. So incredibly stupid. I sat on the edge of my mattress, which was really just a futon I'd found on the street corner, and disinfected 3 times, staring at the black business card. In the weak light from my single lamp, the silver lettering seemed to glow. There was a phone number, nothing else. No address, no title, no explanation. Just his name and the implicit promise that calling it would change everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom's facility. Reminder. Payment due in 3 days. Current balance. $4,847. I closed my eyes and felt the familiar weight settle onto my chest. The weight that never lifted, never lightened, never gave me a single moment to breathe. $4,847. I had $213 in my account. Even with tomorrow's paycheck, if I still had a job after tonight, I'd be short by over $4,000. The eviction notice on my door said I had 1 week before they changed the locks. Mom's doctor said the new treatment could help, but insurance wouldn't cover it, and Dante Salvatore said I'd never have to be hungry again. What's the cost? That was the question, wasn't it? Men like him didn't hand out miracles. They collected debts. At 5:47 a.m., I gave up pretending I'd make a rational decision. I showered in the rust-stained bathroom I shared with 3 other tenants, put on my only pair of jeans without holes, and pulled my dark hair into a ponytail. My reflection looked exactly like what I was, a 24-year-old woman who'd been fighting so long she'd forgotten what peace felt like. At 5:59 a.m., I stood outside my building in the gray pre-dawn light, hands shoved in my jacket pockets. At exactly 6 a.m., a black Mercedes pulled up to the curb. The driver who stepped out wore a suit that probably cost more than my car if I'd had a car. He was built like a brick wall with kind eyes that didn't match his intimidating frame. Miss Chen? His voice was surprisingly gentle. I nodded, not trusting my voice. He opened the rear door. Mr. Salvatore is waiting. The interior smelled like leather and money. Dante sat in the far corner, dressed in a charcoal suit, reading something on his phone. He didn't look up as I slid in, and the door closed with an expensive thunk that sealed me inside. We pulled into traffic before he finally spoke. You came. You knew I would. I hated how my voice shook slightly. I hoped. He set down his phone and turned those dark eyes on me. In the morning light, I could see they weren't pure black. They were the deepest brown, with flecks of gold near the pupils. Hope and certainty are different things. Where are we going? To show you what I'm offering. The car glided through streets I recognized, then ones I didn't. The buildings got nicer, the cars more expensive, the people walking dogs that probably ate better than I did. We stopped in front of Romano's diner. My diner. Or rather, The diner where I scraped by on minimum wage and stolen bites of other people's meals. But it looked different. The lights were all on. Through the windows, I could see people inside, contractors maybe. Men carrying tools and blueprints, women with tablets and measuring tapes. "What's happening?" I asked. Dante stepped out of the car, and I followed because I couldn't not follow. He moved like someone who'd never been told no in his life. Confident, controlled, dangerous in the way a knife was dangerous. Beautiful and sharp and capable of cutting deep. He held the door open for me. Inside, the restaurant had been transformed. The worn booths were being measured for replacement. Someone was examining the kitchen equipment. A woman in designer clothes stood near the bar, making notes on architectural plans spread across the counter. "Mr. Salvatore." She looked up with the kind of respect that bordered on fear. "We can have the renovations complete in 6 weeks. Full modernization, new kitchen equipment, expanded seating. The permits are already approved." 6 weeks? Those permits took months, unless you were someone who made things happen with a phone call and an implicit threat. Good. Dante's hand settled on the small of my back, and I jumped. He didn't remove it. "What's your vision for this place, Mara?" I stared at him. "My vision? It's yours now. Or it will be, if you agree to my terms." He guided me toward the plans, his touch burning through my thin jacket. "So tell me, if this restaurant belonged to you, what would you do with it?" My mind reeled. "This is insane. People don't just give away restaurants." "I already told you. I don't give anything away." He leaned closer, and I caught that scent again, expensive and dangerous and somehow magnetic. "I'm making an investment in someone I believe will be very useful to me." "Useful how?" His smile was slow and predatory. "That's what we're going to discuss. But first, the vision, Mara. Stop thinking about what you can't have and tell me what you want." And God help me, I started talking. I told him about the community, dinners I'd always imagined. Hot meals for people like me who were one missed paycheck from disaster. I told him about the rooftop garden I'd dreamed of, growing fresh herbs and vegetables. About the cooking classes, the local art on the walls, the way a restaurant could be more than just food, it could be hope. I talked until my voice ran out. And when I finally stopped, embarrassed by my own desperate enthusiasm, Dante was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. "Yes," he said simply. "Yes, what?" "Yes, you'll do all of that. And in exchange..." The door chimed. A man walked in, older, silver-haired, wearing a police captain's uniform. He stopped dead when he saw Dante, and his face went pale. "I'm sorry, Mr. Salvatore. I didn't know you'd be here. I can come back." "No need." Dante's voice went cold, terrifyingly cold. "Captain Morrison and I were just finishing our discussion about the protection this neighborhood receives. Weren't we, Captain?" The police captain swallowed hard. "Yes, sir." I watched him leave, practically running. Then I turned to Dante, and my blood ran cold with understanding. "What exactly do you want from me?" His smile was beautiful and terrible. "Loyalty, Mara. Absolute, unquestioning loyalty. This restaurant becomes yours. Your mother's medical bills disappear. You never go hungry again." He stepped closer, crowding me against the bar. "And in exchange, you belong to me." The word belong echoed in my head like a gunshot in an empty room. "I don't belong to anyone." My voice came out steadier than I felt, even as my back pressed against the bar and Dante's presence consumed all the air between us. "Everyone belongs to someone, Mara." He didn't touch me, but he didn't need to. His proximity was enough, a demonstration of power that made my pulse race. "The question is whether you choose your master or let circumstance choose for you." "That's not a choice, that's coercion." "No." His eyes darkened. "Coercion would be threatening you. I'm offering you everything you need and asking for something in return. That's business." "What kind of loyalty are we talking about?" I forced myself to hold his gaze even though every instinct screamed at me to look away. "What would I have to do?" He studied me for a long moment, and I had the unsettling feeling he was seeing past every wall I'd ever built. "This restaurant will be legitimate," he said finally. "Completely legal, properly documented, no dirty money flowing through it. You'll run it exactly as you described: community dinners, fresh food, hope for people who need it. Then what? But you'll also be mine," he said it simply, like he was commenting on the weather. "You'll live in a property I own. You'll have security I provide. And when I need you to attend events, dinners, meetings, you'll be at my side. Understanding hit me like cold water. You want me to be your... what? Your girlfriend? My companion. He cut me off smoothly. Someone who appears with me publicly. Someone who makes me look slightly less like the monster everyone believes I am. So I'm supposed to be your redemption arc? Bitterness crept into my voice. The poor waitress who humanizes the mob boss. Something flickered in his expression. Anger, maybe, or something more complicated. You're supposed to be exactly who you are. That's why you're valuable. I don't understand. I know. He finally stepped back, giving me room to breathe. And that's precisely the point. You look at me and you see a man, not a myth. You took food from my plate because you were hungry, not because you were trying to seduce me or gain favor or play some calculated game. You're real, Mara. In my world, that's rarer than diamonds. The designer woman cleared her throat from across the room. Mr. Salvatore, the contractors need your approval on later. He didn't even glance at her. Leave us. The room emptied in 30 seconds flat. Everyone moving with the kind of swift obedience that came from fear, respect, or both. Now it was just us, in the half-renovated restaurant where my entire future hung in the balance. How long? I asked quietly. How long what? How long would I have to belong to you? His jaw tightened. 2 years. After that, the restaurant is yours free and clear. Your mother's medical bills paid in full. A trust fund that ensures you'll never struggle again. And you walk away if you choose to. 2 years of my life for financial security. I laughed, but it came out hollow. That sounds like every bad deal desperate people make. It is. He crossed to the window, hands in his pockets, silhouetted against the morning light. I won't pretend otherwise. You'll be associated with me, which means you'll be in danger. My enemies will see you as a target. The FBI watches everyone I spend time with. Your life will never be completely your own. Then why would anyone agree to this? He turned back to face me. Because the alternative is worse. Because your mother needs treatment you can't afford. Because you're being evicted next week. Because you're so tired of fighting that you ate leftovers in an empty restaurant and nearly cried from relief. Each word was a knife, precise and cutting in its accuracy. I hate that you're right, I whispered. I know. For the first time, his voice softened. But I'm offering you more than money, Mara. I'm offering you a chance to build something that matters. This restaurant, it can be exactly what you dreamed of. You can help people the way you needed help. Isn't that worth 2 years? I thought of Mom in that facility, her mind slipping away a little more each visit. I thought of the eviction notice, the empty refrigerator, the bone-deep exhaustion of working 2 shifts and still coming up short. I thought of the steak I'd stolen, and the shame that had burned hotter than the hunger. If I say yes, I began slowly. I need guarantees. Interest sparked in his eyes, such as, my mother's care is non-negotiable. Full payment, best facility, whatever she needs. In writing. Done. The restaurant stays completely separate from whatever business you conduct. No backroom deals, no money laundering, nothing illegal touches this place. Agreed. And I need 1 day a week that's mine. Completely mine. No events, no appearances, no belonging to you for 24 hours. He considered this longer. Sunday, Saturday. Saturday night is when I need you most. Sunday, and you can have whatever you want within reason. I took a breath. One more thing. Yes? You don't touch me unless I want you to. Something dangerous flashed in his expression. Not anger, something hotter, more complicated. He crossed the room in 3 strides and stopped inches away, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. Let me be very clear, he said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. I don't take what isn't freely given. Ever. If I touch you, Mara, it will be because you're begging me to. My breath caught. The certainty in his voice, the dark promise behind it, it should have terrified me. Instead, heat pooled low in my stomach. So we have a deal? I managed. He pulled a folded paper from his inside jacket pocket. A contract, already prepared. Because of course he'd known I'd say yes. Sign this, and your life changes today, right now, this moment. I took the pen he offered. My hand shook as I signed my name. Dante took the contract, examined my signature, then looked up with a smile that was pure predatory satisfaction. "Welcome to my world, Mara Chen. Try not to lose yourself in it." The door burst open. A man in a blood-soaked suit stumbled in, gasping. "Boss, we have a problem. The Russians know about the girl." Dante's expression went ice cold. "Get her to the car. Now." Everything happened too fast. One moment I was standing in my soon-to-be restaurant, ink still wet on a contract that had just sold 2 years of my life. The next, Dante's hand locked around my wrist, and he was pulling me toward the back exit with a speed that made my head spin. Wait, what's happening? I tried to dig my heels in, but he was stronger, so much stronger. "Move, now." His voice had transformed from smooth negotiation to sharp command, the kind of voice that expected absolute obedience. The injured man, younger than I'd first thought, maybe 30, pressed a hand to his bleeding shoulder and followed us. They hit the warehouse on 5th, killed 3 of ours. Dmitri sent a message: he wants the new acquisition, or he burns down every property you own in this district. My stomach dropped. New acquisition? Is he talking about me? Dante didn't answer. He shoved open the back door into an alley where 2 more black cars idled, engines running. Men in suits materialized from nowhere, forming a protective circle around us. "Get her to the safe house," Dante ordered, pulling open a car. Door. "Marco, you're on her. Antonio, sweep the perimeter. If anything moves that isn't ours, put it down." "No." I planted my feet. "I'm not going anywhere until someone tells me what's going on." He turned on me, and the look in his eyes made my blood freeze. This wasn't the man who'd offered me hope and hungry steaks. This was someone else entirely, someone capable of terrible things. "You signed the contract 10 minutes ago," he said, each word precise and lethal, which means someone in my organization has been talking, which means there's a traitor close enough to know my movements, which means you are in more danger than you can possibly comprehend. "Then let me go." My voice cracked. "Tear up the contract. I'll disappear. It doesn't work that way." He moved closer, and despite everything, despite the blood and the guns and the obvious violence humming in the air, my body responded to his proximity. "The moment you signed your name, you became mine. The Russians know it. My enemies know it. And they will use you to get to me unless I protect you. I didn't sign up for this." "Yes, you did." His hand cupped my face, forcing me to look at him. "You wanted security. This is the price. Now get in the car before I throw you in, boss." One of the suited men, Antonio, spoke urgently into his phone. "They're 3 blocks out, 2 vehicles, at least 6 men." Dante's jaw tightened. He looked at me, then at the car, then made a decision that I could see him calculating in real time. "Change of plans. She comes with me." "Boss, that's not—" "She comes with me," he repeated, and the finality in his tone killed all argument. He pulled me toward his car, the Mercedes from this morning, though it felt like a lifetime ago, and pushed me into the back seat before sliding in beside me. The driver accelerated before the door fully closed. "Where are we going?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Somewhere they won't expect." He was already on his phone, speaking rapid Italian that I couldn't follow. His free hand stayed on my knee. Whether to comfort me or keep me from bolting, I wasn't sure. I watched the city blur past the tinted windows. My city, except now it looked different. Threatening. Every shadow could hide enemies. Every car could be following us. "I need to call my mother's facility," I said suddenly. "If these people know about me, they might—" "Already done." Dante ended his call and made another one. "Marco is there now with a full security team. Your mother is being moved to a private wing with 24-hour protection. No one gets near her." Relief and terror warred in my chest. This is insane. This whole thing is insane. "Yes." He finally looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something almost like regret in his eyes. "I should have waited, should have given you more protection before making the contract public, but I thought—" He trailed off, shaking his head. "It doesn't matter what I thought." "You thought what?" "That I had more time." His hand tightened on my knee. "The Russians have been circling for months, looking for weaknesses. I've been careful, so careful not to give them ammunition. But I'm a weakness. You're a complication they didn't see coming." He turned to face me fully. "Which makes you valuable and vulnerable in equal measure." The car took a sharp turn, I grabbed the door handle as we shot down a narrow street. Someone's on us, the driver reported calmly. Black SUV, persistent tail. Dante's expression didn't change. Lose them. What followed was the most terrifying 5 minutes of my life. The driver who handled the Mercedes like a fighter pilot took turns at speeds that shouldn't have been possible. We ran 2 red lights, cut through a parking garage, and emerged onto a completely different street. The SUV was gone. My heart hammered so hard I thought I might be sick. Breathe, Dante ordered quietly. You're safe. Safe? I laughed, hysterically. I'm in a car being chased by Russian mobsters because I signed a contract with an Italian mobster. Nothing about this is safe. You're safe because you're with me. His voice dropped lower, more intense. And I protect what's mine, Mara. Always. The possessiveness in those words should have angered me. Instead, something warm and dangerous unfurled in my chest. We pulled up to a building I didn't recognize, modern, sleek, all glass and steel reaching toward the sky. The driver parked in an underground garage where more suited men waited. Dante stepped out and extended his hand to me. I took it because what choice did I have? He led me to a private elevator, and as the doors closed, sealing us in together, he spoke quietly. I'm going to ask you something, and I need complete honesty. Okay. Do you trust me? I looked at this man who'd upended my entire life in less than 12 hours. This dangerous, powerful, impossibly complicated man who'd offered me everything. I needed and dragged me into a war I didn't understand. I don't know, I whispered. His smile was sad. Good. That's the smartest answer you could give. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse apartment that took my breath away. And standing in the living room, holding a gun, was a woman who looked exactly like me. I stopped breathing. The woman holding the gun had my face. My dark hair, though hers was cut in a sleek bob while mine hung in a ponytail. My eyes, my bone structure, my height. She was me. If I'd been born into money and danger instead of poverty and desperation. Put it down, Lucia, Dante said calmly, stepping in front of me. So, not me. My sister. The sister I'd spent 15 years believing was dead. That's her? Lucia's voice was colder than mine, harder. She lowered the gun but didn't put it away. That's the precious investment you've been so secretive about. Mara, meet your half-sister. Dante's hand found my lower back, steadying me as my knees threatened to give out. Lucia Chen Moretti, my cousin's wife and apparently the source of our security leak. The words didn't make sense. None of this made sense. My sister is dead, I heard myself say. She died in a car accident when I was 9. Lucia laughed, sharp and bitter. Is that what Mom told you? That I died? She crossed the room, and I saw how she moved like Dante, like the men with guns, predatory and precise. I didn't die, little sister. I ran away at 16 and never looked back. Why? The word barely made it past my throat, because staying meant becoming you. My eyes raked over my cheap jeans and worn jacket. Poor, desperate, trapped. I wanted more, so I took it. Dante's hand pressed against my back, a silent reminder he was there. Lucia found out about you 3 months ago, used her husband's connections to track your movements. When she learned I'd taken an interest in you, she sold that information to the Russians. My head spun. You, married into the mob? I married power. Lucia shrugged. And I've spent 8 years building a life where I never have to be hungry or scared again. Then you show up, and suddenly Dante's offering you everything I had to fight for. So yes, I made a call. Sue me. You tried to get her killed. Dante's voice went lethal. Over jealousy. Over stupidity. Lucia turned on him. You never take companions, Dante. Never show interest in anyone. It makes you untouchable. Then this starving waitress eats your leftovers and suddenly you're rewriting contracts and moving heaven and earth? The Russians weren't the only ones asking questions. The betrayal cut deeper because she was right. I was nobody. Nothing. Just a desperate woman who'd made a deal with the devil because I had no other choice. I didn't ask for any of this, I said quietly. No one ever does. Lucia finally holstered her gun. But you took it anyway. Signed your name and stepped into a world you don't understand. So let me give you some sisterly advice. Get out now, before you become collateral damage in wars that have nothing to do with you. She's not going anywhere. Dante's voice was absolute. And neither are you. Marco! 2 men entered the living room. The same men who'd been protecting us downstairs. Escort Mrs. Moretti to the south wing. She doesn't leave without my explicit permission. Dante's expression could have cut glass. And call her husband. Tell him his wife just committed treason against the family. He can collect her when we've decided on appropriate consequences. Lucia's face went pale. Dante, you can't. I can. I am. He didn't raise his voice, which somehow made it more terrifying. You endangered not just Mara, but every operation we're running in this district. 3 men died tonight because of your jealousy. So you'll stay here, under guard, until we've cleaned up your mess. They took her away, still protesting. I watched my sister, my living, breathing, traitorous. Sister disappeared down a hallway and felt nothing but numb shock. When we were alone, Dante turned to me. Sit down before you fall down. I did, sinking onto a leather couch that probably cost more than a year of my salary. He poured something amber from a crystal decanter and handed it to me. Drink. I drank. It burned going down, but the warmth helped center me. She's really my sister. It wasn't a question. Half-sister. Same mother. Different fathers. Lucia's father was Victor Chen, a mid-level player in the Moretti organization. He died when she was 10. Your father. He paused. Do you know who your father was? Mom never talked about him. Said he left before I was born. His name was James Patterson. He was FBI. Dante watched my face carefully. Deep undercover in the Chen operation. Your mother was his contact before she became his lover. When his cover was blown, he disappeared into witness protection. Your mother chose to stay. The whiskey turned to ash in my mouth. My father was FBI? Which makes you very interesting to a lot of people. He sat beside me, close enough that I could feel his warmth. Lucia married into the family to escape poverty. But you have connections that could be valuable or dangerous depending on who's asking. Did you know? I looked at him, this beautiful, terrible man who'd bought 2 years of my life. When you made the offer, did you know about my father? He held my gaze. Yes, the honesty hurt more than a lie would have. So this was never about me being real or valuable for who I am. This was about my connections. No, he moved closer, his hand cupping my face like he had in the alley. I learned about your father after I'd already decided I wanted you. It made the deal more complicated, not more appealing. I don't believe you. I don't care. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. Believe this instead, you're mine now. My responsibility, my protection, my problem to solve. And I don't abandon what belongs to me. I'm not a possession. No, he agreed softly. You're so much more dangerous than that. His phone buzzed. He checked it, and his expression darkened. What now? I asked, exhausted. The Russians just sent another message. He showed me the phone. It was a photograph of my mother's facility, burning. And a text. Give us the girl or everyone you love dies screaming. I stopped feeling numb. I started feeling rage. Teach me, I said. Teach you what? How to survive your world. I looked at him, really looked at him, and made a choice. If I'm going to be in this, I'm not going to be helpless. Teach me how to fight back. Dante's smile was slow and predatory and absolutely devastating. Now you're starting to understand. The facility wasn't actually burning. Dante's men had intercepted the Russians before they could do more than set off smoke bombs in the parking lot. Mom was safe, relocated to a private medical suite in a building so secure it made Fort Knox look casual. But the message was clear. They could reach anyone, anywhere, anytime, and I was done being afraid. First rule, Dante said, leading me down a hallway in his penthouse to a room I hadn't seen yet. Fear is useful, terror is not. You learn to control the fear, use it to sharpen your instincts, not dull them. He opened a door to reveal what looked like a private gym, but darker, more purposeful. Mats on the floor, weapons mounted on the walls, targets at the far end. This wasn't where you got fit. This was where you learned to survive. Second rule, he continued, shrugging off his suit jacket. Everyone is a threat until proven otherwise. Trust is earned in blood and time. Nothing else. I watched him roll up his sleeves, revealing forearms corded with muscle and scattered with scars. Evidence of a life lived violently. Third rule. He turned to face me, and something in his expression made my pulse quicken. When someone comes for you, You don't hesitate. You don't negotiate. You end them before they end you. I've never hit anyone in my life, I said. You will tonight. He moved to the center of the mat. Come here. I joined him, feeling ridiculous in my street clothes while he looked like some kind of dangerous god preparing for battle. Hit me, he ordered. What? Make a fist. Hit me as hard as you can. I balled my hand into something resembling a fist and swung at his chest. He caught my wrist before I made contact. Terrible. But his voice held no judgment. Thumb outside your fingers or you'll break it. Aim for soft target's throat, solar plexus, groin. Never the head unless you want a broken hand. He positioned my hand correctly, his fingers warm against mine. Again. I swung. He blocked, but gentler this time. Better. Again. We went on like this for 20 minutes, him teaching, me learning. My knuckles started to ache, my muscles screaming from exertion. Sweat dampened my hairline. Enough. He caught both my wrists. You're tensing your shoulders. You'll telegraph every move that way. Maybe because I'm terrified, I snapped, frustration boiling over. Maybe because 12 hours ago I was a waitress and now I'm taking combat lessons from a mob boss while my sister, my supposedly dead sister, is locked in another room for trying to get me killed. Maybe because nothing about this is normal or okay, or... He kissed me. Not soft, not gentle. Hard and demanding and absolutely devastating. His hands released my wrists to cut my face, angling my head to deepen the kiss. I froze for half a second, shocked, overwhelmed, drowning in sensations I'd never experienced. Then I kissed him back, my hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. He made a sound low in his throat, almost a growl, and backed me against the wall. His body pressed against mine, all heat and hard muscle and barely controlled power. When he finally pulled away, we were both breathing hard. What was that? I gasped. A distraction. His voice was rough. From fear, from thinking too much, from everything except right now. That's not we shouldn't. I told you I don't take what isn't freely given. His thumb traced my lower lip. But you were spiraling, and sometimes the best way to quiet the mind is to overwhelm it. That's a terrible justification for kissing someone. Is it? His eyes searched mine. Are you still thinking about Russians and burning buildings and sisters who betrayed you? I wasn't. I was thinking about the way he tasted whiskey and danger and something uniquely him, about how his hands felt against my skin, about the heat pooling low in my belly that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with want. No, I admitted quietly. Then it worked. He stepped back, giving me space I wasn't sure I wanted. But you're right, we shouldn't. Not yet. Not while you're processing everything. The fact that he recognized it, that he backed away despite the clear desire in his eyes, made me want him more. Back to training, he said, voice still rough. I want you able to defend yourself if someone gets past my security. We trained for another hour. He taught me where to strike, how to break a hold, what to do if someone grabbed me from behind. Every move was practical, brutal, designed to incapacitate. You won't win a fair fight, he explained, demonstrating a move that involved a knee to the groin followed by an elbow to the throat. So don't fight fair. Fight dirty, fight smart, and run the moment you have an opening. What if running isn't an option? His jaw tightened. Then you do whatever it takes to survive. Whatever it takes. There was a story there, something dark and painful, but before I could ask, his phone rang. He answered, listened, and his expression went cold. When? A pause. How many? Another pause. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He ended the call and looked at me, and I saw genuine conflict in his eyes. I have to go handle something. Marco will stay with you. Don't leave this apartment. What's happening? The Russians are pushing back. They hit one of our supply warehouses on the docks. He grabbed his jacket. 3 dead, 5 injured. I need to send a message that this ends now. What kind of message? He paused at the door. The kind written in blood. Fear spiked through me. Dante, stay here. Stay safe. He looked back at me, and for just a moment, the mask slipped. I saw exhaustion, rage, and something that might have been regret. I'll be back before dawn. What if you're not? Then Marco will take you somewhere they'll never find you. You'll be provided for, protected. The contract will be honored even if I'm dead. The casual way he said it made my chest tighten. Don't talk like that. It's the reality of my world, Mara. The world you chose. He opened the door. Lock this behind me. Don't open it for anyone but Marco or me. Then he was gone, and I was alone in a penthouse that felt like a gilded cage. I locked the door. Then I walked to the window and looked out over the city. My city. Now his city. Our city. Somewhere out there, Dante was going to kill people. And God help me, I hoped he came back safely. He didn't come back before dawn. I spent the night curled on the couch, unable to sleep, watching the door like it might offer answers. Marco stood guard in the hallway, silent and imposing. Every time I checked, and I checked often, he was there, immovable as stone. At 6:47 a.m., I heard the elevator. I was off the couch before I consciously decided to move, my heart hammering against my ribs. The door opened, and Dante walked in. He was still wearing the same clothes from last night, but now they were different, disheveled. His shirt collar was open, tie gone. Dark stains marked his sleeves that my brain refused to identify as blood, even though I knew exactly what they were. His eyes found mine immediately, and something in his expression cracked. "You're awake," he said quietly. I couldn't sleep. I moved toward him without thinking. "Are you hurt?" "No." He looked down at himself, at the evidence of violence painting his clothes. Not my blood. The words should have terrified me. Instead, relief flooded through me so intensely my knees weakened. "You need to shower," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Change clothes. Eat something. Mara, shower first, then we'll talk." He studied me for a long moment, and I saw him calculating, deciding. Finally, he nodded and disappeared down the hallway, toward what I assumed was his bedroom. I went to the kitchen, massive, modern, barely used, and found eggs, bread, coffee. My hands shook as I cooked, but cooking was familiar. Cooking was something I could control when everything else was chaos. 20 minutes later, he emerged wearing black joggers and a t-shirt, his dark hair still damp. He looked younger like this, more human, almost vulnerable, if someone like Dante Salvatore could ever be, truly vulnerable. I set a plate in front of him at the kitchen island. Scrambled eggs, toast, coffee black like I'd seen him drink it yesterday. Was it really only yesterday? He stared at the food like it was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "Eat," I ordered softly. "You look like you haven't slept in days." I haven't, but he picked up the fork, took a bite. Something in his shoulders relaxed marginally. "You didn't have to do this. You didn't have to go to war over me either, but here we are." He huffed out something that might have been a laugh. We ate in silence for a few minutes, the morning light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, making the nightmare of the previous night feel distant and unreal. "Did you?" I couldn't finish the question. "Kill anyone?" He set down his fork, meeting my eyes directly. "Yes, 4 men. 3 died quickly. 1 I needed alive long enough to send a message." My stomach turned, but I forced myself to hold his gaze. "What message?" "That you are untouchable. That anyone who comes for you signs their own death warrant." His voice was matter-of-fact, like he was discussing the weather. "The Russians will think twice before making another move. Maybe 3 times. How can you be so calm about it?" "Because I've been doing this since I was 16. He pushed his plate away, appetite apparently gone. "My father brought me to my first execution when I was 14. Told me to watch, to learn what happens to traitors. 2 years later, I pulled the trigger myself. The horror of it settled over me like a shroud. You were a child. I was a Salvatore." The bitterness in his voice cut deep. "Children don't exist in families like mine. Only heirs, soldiers, or liabilities. I chose to be an heir. I wanted to reach for him, to offer comfort, but I didn't know if he'd accept it or if I even had the right." "Do you ever wish you'd chosen differently?" I asked quietly. "Every single day." He stood, walking to the window, his back to me. "But wishing doesn't change reality. I am what I am, Mara. What I've done, what I'll continue to do, there's no redemption from it. No walking away clean. Is that why you want me?" The question escaped before I could stop it. "Because I'm not part of this world? Because I represent something you can never have?" He turned, and the look in his eyes stole my breath. "I want you because when you look at me, you see a man capable of change. Everyone else sees either a monster to fear or a king to serve. But you," his voice roughened, "you see someone who could be different. And God help me, when I'm with you, I almost believe it's possible. The vulnerability in his admission broke something open in my chest. I crossed to him before I could second-guess myself. Stood close enough to feel his warmth, to see the exhaustion etched into his features. "Show me," I whispered. "Show you what?" "Who you are when no one's watching. When you're not the boss or the monster or the king." I reached up, my hand trembling as I touched his face. "Show me Dante. Just Dante." His hand covered mine, pressing my palm against his cheek. His eyes closed. "I don't know if that person exists anymore." "Then let's find out." He opened his eyes, and what I saw there nearly undid me, longing and fear and desperate hope all tangled together. "If I show you," he said slowly. "If I let you see all of me, the ugly parts, the broken parts, the pieces I've buried so deep I've almost forgotten them, you might run. And Mara, if you run from me now, I don't know if I could survive it." The confession hung between us, raw and honest and terrifying. "I'm not running." I said it like a vow, like a promise I wasn't sure I could keep but was making anyway. "I'm here. I'm choosing to be here." He pulled me against him then, his arms wrapping around me like I was the only solid thing in his crumbling world, his face buried in my hair, his breath warm against my neck. "I killed for you tonight," he whispered. "I would kill 1,000 more without hesitation. Does that frighten you?" "It should have. It absolutely should have." "Yes," I admitted, "but not as much as the thought of losing you does." His arms tightened. We stood like that as the sun rose over the city, two broken people clinging to each other in the aftermath of violence, finding something neither of us had expected. Hope. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. Finally, he pulled back enough to check it. His expression went from soft to stone in an instant. "What?" I asked, dread pooling in my stomach. "Your sister escaped, and she took something that could destroy us all. The war room was nothing like I'd imagined. No dark wood paneling or cigar smoke. Just a minimalist conference room with screens covering one wall, showing surveillance feeds, maps, and data I couldn't begin to understand. 8 men sat around the table. Dante's inner circle, I realized. Each one looked at me with varying degrees of curiosity, suspicion, or indifference. I didn't belong here. That much was obvious. But Dante's hand on my lower back kept me moving forward, kept me from bolting like every instinct screamed at me to do. "Gentlemen," Dante said, his voice commanding immediate attention. "This is Mara Chen. She's under my protection, which means she's under yours. Anyone who allows harm to come to her answers to me personally." The threat in those words was unmistakable. "Boss," Marco spoke from near the screens. "We've tracked Lucia's movements. She left through the service entrance at 3 a.m., used a stolen keycard. Security footage shows she had helped someone on the inside gave her access codes." "Who?" Dante's voice went deadly quiet, still identifying. "But she took your personal files, the ones in the safe." Every man in the room went still. I felt Dante's hand tighten against my back, the only sign of his reaction. "What files?" I asked quietly. No one answered me. "What files?" I repeated, louder this time. Dante's jaw worked. "Leverage. Names, photographs, evidence of deals and alliances that could bring down half the families in this city if exposed, including mine. Understanding hit like ice water. She can destroy you. She can start a war that would leave hundreds dead." He moved to the screens, studying the surveillance footage. "Marco, I want every contact she's made in the last 6 months. Every phone call, every email, every person she's looked at twice. Already on it, boss. And find out who helped her. I want them alive." The promise of violence in those words made my skin prickle. They'll wish they were dead long before I'm finished, but I want them alive first. One of the men older, with silver threading through his dark hair, cleared his throat. "With respect, Dante, maybe we should consider what she wants." "Excuse me?" "Lucia." The man's eyes flicked to me, then back to Dante. "She's always been ambitious, always wanted more than her husband could give her. Maybe this isn't about destroying you. Maybe it's about negotiating." "Negotiating what?" I asked before I could stop myself. The man looked at me directly for the first time. "You. She wants what you have, Dante's attention, his protection, his resources. She thinks she deserves it more." "That's insane," I said. "I didn't ask for any of this." "No, But you got it anyway. There was no judgment in his voice, just cold fact. And in our world, that's enough to make you a target. Dante's phone rang. He checked it, and something flickered across his face, surprise. Maybe, or calculation. Everyone out, he ordered. Except Mara. The room emptied in seconds. When we were alone, Dante handed me his phone. It's for you. My heart stuttered. What? Your sister wants to talk. To you, specifically. With shaking hands, I took the phone and lifted it to my ear. Lucia? Hey, little sister. Her voice was bright, almost cheerful, like we were catching up over last. Coffee instead of in the middle of a war. Enjoying your new life? What do you want? So direct. I always wondered if we'd be alike if we'd grown up together. She sighed. But we didn't, did we? You got Mom all to yourself while I built a life from nothing. You left, I said, anger rising. You chose to leave. I chose to survive. There's a difference. Her tone hardened. But that's not why I called. I have a proposition. I'm listening. The files I took their insurance. Proof that Dante and every family in this city have been breaking laws for decades. I could release them, watch it all burn. Or what? Or you walk away. Leave Dante. Leave the city. Disappear. I'll give you money enough to take care of Mom, to start over somewhere safe. The files stay buried, the war ends before it starts, and you get to live a normal life. I looked at Dante, who was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. And if I don't? I asked. Then I release everything. The FBI raids every property, arrests everyone connected to the families, and Dante spends the rest of his life in prison. If he lives long enough to be arrested. She paused. Blood might not mean much to me, Mara, but I don't actually want you dead. So I'm giving you a way out. Why would you care? Because despite everything, you're still my sister. And because Mom would never forgive me if something happened to you. Her voice softened slightly. I've done terrible things to survive, but killing family isn't one of them. Yet, the threat was clear. I need time to think, I said. You have 24 hours. After that, the files go public. She hung up. I handed the phone back to Dante, my hand shaking. She wants me to leave, I said. To walk away from you, from all of this. I know. He pocketed the phone. I could hear her. What do I do? He crossed to me, his hands framing my face with a gentleness that contradicted everything I'd learned about him in the last 2 days. You choose, he said quietly. This is your life, Mara, your choice. I won't manipulate you or force you or make promises I can't keep. If you want to walk away, if you take her deal, I'll let you go. I'll make sure you and your mother are protected, provided for. You'll never have to look over your shoulder. And you? I'll deal with the consequences, like I always have. My heart cracked. She'll destroy you. Probably. His thumb traced my cheekbone. But at least you'll be safe. And right now, that matters more. The sacrifice in his words. The absolute certainty that he'd burn his entire world down to keep me safe. It was too much. Too real. Too devastating. There has to be another way, I whispered. There isn't. Not one that keeps you out of the crossfire. His forehead touched mine. So choose, Mara. Choose the life you want, and I'll make it happen. I closed my eyes, breathing him in his scent, his warmth, his impossible presence. And I realized something terrifying. I didn't want to leave, even knowing what he was, what he'd done, what he was capable of. I didn't want to walk away. I'm not leaving, I said. His breath hitched. Mara, I'm not leaving, I repeated, pulling back to look at him. So we find another way. Together. The hope in his eyes was beautiful and heartbreaking. Then we go to war, he said softly. The door burst open. Marco stood there, face pale. Boss, they found the mole. You need to see this. We followed him to another room where a man sat tied to a chair, bleeding from a dozen places. I recognized him immediately. Tony, my night manager from the diner. And suddenly, everything made terrible sense. Tony looked up at me with swollen eyes, and I saw genuine fear there. Fear of Dante. Fear of what was coming, but also guilt. Mara, he croaked. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You've been watching her this whole time. Dante's voice was ice. Every shift, every conversation, Every moment she was vulnerable, reporting back to Lucia. She paid me. Tony's voice broke. $20,000 just to keep tabs on Mara. I swear I didn't know what Lucia was planning. You knew enough. Dante circled him like a predator. You knew she was interested in an employee. You knew you were spying for someone with connections. You didn't ask questions because you didn't want to know the answers. I felt sick. How long? Tony wouldn't meet my eyes. 6 months. Since Lucia first tracked you down. 6 months. My entire recent life had been under surveillance. Every private moment watched and reported. Every struggle, every humiliation, every night I'd gone home exhausted and hopeless. Someone had been documenting it all. Did you know about the Russians? I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. No, I swear, Mara. Lucia just wanted information. I thought maybe she was a long-lost relative or something, trying to reconnect. Don't lie to her. Dante's hand cracked across Tony's, face hard enough that blood sprayed. You knew exactly what you were doing. You took money to betray someone who trusted you. I should have been horrified by the violence. Instead, I felt cold, detached, like I was watching this happen to someone else. What happens now? I asked. Dante looked at me, and I saw him measuring my reaction, testing to see if this would be the thing that finally made me run. That depends on you, he said quietly. On me? He betrayed you, helped put you in danger. The decision of what happens to him is yours. The room went silent. Every man there watched me, waiting to see what the boss's woman would do when given real power. You're asking me to decide if he lives or dies. The words felt surreal in my mouth. I'm asking you to decide what justice looks like to you. Dante moved closer, his voice low enough that only I could hear. This is part of my world, Mara. Hard choices with no good answers. If you want to truly be in this with me, you need to understand what that means. I looked at Tony bleeding, terrified, pleading silently with his eyes. I'd worked with him for 6 months. He'd covered my shifts when Mom was sick, had slipped me leftover food when he thought no one was watching. Small kindnesses that I'd believed were genuine, but he'd also sold me out for money, had enabled Lucia's surveillance, her manipulations, her eventual betrayal. I want him gone, I said finally. Out of the city, out of my life, away from anything connected to me or Dante. But I don't want him dead. Dante studied me. He could talk, could become a liability. Then make sure he understands what happens if he does. I met Tony's eyes. You took money to spy on me. Fine. But if you ever speak about what you've seen, if you ever come back to this city or try to contact anyone in this world, I will personally make sure Dante finds you. And next time, I won't show mercy. The words sounded foreign coming from my mouth. Hard, cold, nothing like the woman I'd been 2 days ago. But maybe that woman had been too soft to survive. Marco, Dante ordered. Put him on a bus to Miami. Give him $5,000 and a new identity. But make sure he knows one word, one slip, and we'll know. And there won't be a third chance. They dragged Tony out, still babbling apologies and thanks. The door closed, leaving me alone with Dante and the crushing weight of what I'd just done. You showed him mercy, Dante said quietly. I showed him what I needed to see in myself. I wrapped my arms around my body, suddenly cold. That I haven't become someone who orders executions without thinking twice. Yet. He moved behind me, his hands settling on my shoulders. That word is important. Yet. Will I? I tilted my head back to look at him. Will I eventually become someone who can kill without hesitation? I don't know. His honesty cut. This world changes people. I've seen it happen 1,000 times. Good people making hard choices, until hard becomes normal and normal becomes easy. Is that what happened to you? His hands tightened on my shoulders. Yes, I don't want that. My voice cracked. I don't want to lose myself in this. Then don't. He turned me to face him. Hold on to who you are like a lifeline. Remember why you're here, what you're fighting for. And when the darkness gets too heavy, let me carry it instead. That's not fair to you. Nothing about this is fair, Mara. His hand cupped my face. But I'd rather bear the weight of every terrible thing in this world than watch you drown in it. The vulnerability in his words, the raw honesty it broke through the walls I'd been building around my heart. I kissed him. Not like before, not desperate or seeking distraction. This was different, deliberate, a choice made with full understanding of what it meant. He responded instantly, his arms wrapping around me, pulling me flush against him. The kiss deepened, hunger mixing with something tender, something that felt dangerously close to love. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were dark with desire and something more complex. "Mara," he said roughly, "if we do this, if we cross this line, there's no going back. I know." I reached up, threading my fingers through his hair. "I'm choosing this, choosing you. With full knowledge of what you are and what it costs. I'll ruin you." His voice was almost desperate. "Everything I touch turns dark eventually. Then we'll be dark together." I pulled him down for another kiss. "But right now, I need you to make me feel something other than fear and anger and exhaustion. Can you do that?" His answer was to lift me into his arms, carrying me toward his bedroom like I weighed nothing. "I can do that," he murmured against my lips. "I can make you feel everything." The door closed behind us, shutting out the world and all its violence. For one night, we were just two people seeking comfort in each other. For one night, the war could wait. But even as his hands found my skin, even as pleasure built between us hot and desperate and absolutely consuming, part of me knew tomorrow, we'd have to face Lucia. Tomorrow, we'd have to fight. But tonight, I surrendered to the one thing I'd been fighting since the moment I met him. The terrible, beautiful truth that I was falling in love with a monster. And he was falling just as hard for me. I woke wrapped in silk sheets that cost more than my monthly rent used to, with Dante's arm heavy across my waist. Morning light filtered through the curtains, painting his bedroom in shades of gold. I turned carefully, not wanting to wake him, and studied his face in the soft light. Asleep, he looked different. Younger. The hard edges that made him terrifying were softened by vulnerability. His dark lashes rested against his cheekbones, his lips slightly parted, one hand curled loosely near his face like a child's. This was the man beneath the monster, the one who'd held me like I was precious, who'd whispered my name like a prayer, who'd made love to me with a desperate intensity that had left us both shaking. His eyes opened, catching me watching. "Morning," he said, voice rough with sleep. "Hi." I felt suddenly shy, which was ridiculous considering what we'd done last night. Multiple times. In multiple ways that made my body ache in the best possible manner. His hand came up to trace my face, thumb brushing my swollen lips. Regrets? Should I have them? Probably. But he smiled, and it transformed his entire face. Genuine, warm, devastatingly beautiful. I'm not exactly boyfriend material. Good thing I never wanted a boyfriend. I shifted closer, resting my head on his chest where I could hear his heartbeat steady, strong, alive. I wanted someone who sees me, really sees me. Not what I could be or should be, but what I am. His arms tightened around me. "I see you, Mara Chen. Every fierce, stubborn, impossibly brave part of you." We lay there in comfortable silence, stealing moments of peace before reality crashed back in. But reality was patient. It could wait a little longer. "Tell me something true," I said quietly. "Something you've never told anyone." He was quiet for so long, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "I'm terrified of you." I lifted my head to look at him. "What? You scare me more than any enemy, any war, any threat I've ever faced." His eyes met mine, and the raw honesty there stole my breath. "Because you make me want things I can't have. A normal life. Peace. Maybe even happiness. And wanting those things makes me weak. Wanting connection doesn't make you weak. In my world, it does." His hand slid into my hair. "Every person I care about becomes a target. Every feeling becomes a weapon someone can use against me. I've spent 20 years building walls so high no one could climb them. Then you ate my leftover steak, and somehow you're inside every defense I ever built." The confession hung between us, vulnerable and terrifying. "I'm scared too," I admitted. "I'm scared I'll lose myself in this world, that I'll wake up one day and not recognize the person I've become, that loving you will cost me everything I am. Then maybe we're both fools." He pulled me up for a kiss, soft, lingering, tasting like promises neither of us knew if we could keep. But at least we're fools together. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. Reality, knocking politely before it kicked down the door. He checked it, and his expression hardened instantly. "What?" I asked, dread pooling in my stomach. "Lucia," She moved up the timeline. He was already getting out of bed. All business now. The files go public in 2 hours unless you meet her. Alone. That's a trap, obviously. He pulled on clothes with efficient precision, which is why you're not going. Dante. No, he turned to me, and the fear I'd seen moments ago was replaced by absolute authority. I won't let you walk. Into an ambush. We'll find another way. There is no other way. I climbed out of bed, grabbing his shirt from the floor and pulling it on. She wants me. If I don't show, she releases everything, and your entire organization collapses. How many people die if that happens? His jaw worked. I don't care. Yes, you do. I crossed to him, taking his face in my hands. You care about every person who works for you, every family that depends on you. You might be a monster, Dante Salvatore, but you're a monster who protects his own. So let me do this. You're asking me to send the woman I love into danger. The words came out raw, unguarded. Do you have any idea what that costs me? I froze. What did you say? He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them, holding my gaze. I love you. Completely. Impossibly. Against every instinct that's kept me alive this long. I love you, Mara. And I can't lose you. My heart felt too big for my chest. You won't lose me. You can't promise that. No, I agreed. But I can promise I'll fight like hell to come back to you, because I love you too, and I'm not ready to give this up. He kissed me then, desperate, consuming, like he could pour every feeling into this one moment. When we broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. If I let you do this, he said quietly, you don't go alone. You wear a wire. You have snipers on every rooftop. And the absolute second things go wrong, my men extract you. Understood? Understood. And Mara? His voice dropped to something dark and promising. If your sister hurts you, if she even threatens you, I will burn her world to ashes and salt the earth where it stood. Blood or no blood. The vicious protectiveness in his words should have frightened me. Instead, it made me feel safer than I'd ever felt in my life. Okay, I whispered. Let's end this. 2 hours later, I stood in an abandoned warehouse on the docks because, of course, it was an abandoned warehouse. Lucia apparently had a flair for drama. She emerged from the shadows, and seeing her was still like looking in a distorted mirror. Same face, different soul. You came, she said. I honestly wasn't sure you would. I'm here. Where are the files? Safe, she smiled. But before we discuss terms, there's something you should know about the man you've fallen in love with. I know what he is. Do you? She pulled out a folder. Do you know that 15 years ago, Dante Salvatore personally executed a federal witness? A man who was going to testify against the families? My blood went cold. What are you talking about? That witness? Lucia's smile turned cruel. His name was James Patterson. Your father, Mara. Dante killed your father. The world tilted. Behind me, I heard Dante's voice through the earpiece, desperate and breaking. Mara, let me explain. But I couldn't hear anything over the roaring in my ears. My father. Dante had killed my father, and he'd never told me. The gun in. Lucia's hand appeared so smoothly I almost didn't see it. Did he tell you? She asked, voice sharp with vindication. Did your monster mention that little detail while he was making you fall in love with him? I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. My father, the FBI agent who'd disappeared before I was born, had been murdered by the man I'd given everything to last night. Mara, Dante's voice crackled in my earpiece, raw with desperation. Please let me explain. It's not what you think. Really? Lucia laughed. Because I think it's exactly what she thinks. You killed James Patterson on your father's orders, your first major execution, the one that proved you were worthy of leading the family. He was already dead. Dante's voice cut through, sharp and pained. By the time I found him, my father's men had already— Mara, please. I need you to listen. But Lucia was still talking, the gun steady in her hand. He used you. Saw an opportunity when he learned who your father was. What better way to control potential FBI interest than to own the daughter of the man you murdered? That's not true. I finally found my voice, even though my world was crumbling. He didn't know about my father until after— Are you sure? Lucia tilted her head. Because I have documents that say otherwise. Evidence that Dante Salvatore has been watching you for 3 years, Mara. since the moment he discovered James Patterson had a daughter. 3 years. The number hit like a physical blow. Mara, she's lying. Dante's voice was urgent. I have my men moving in. 30 seconds and this ends. Tell them to stop. I spoke clearly, knowing he could hear me. Tell them to stand down or I walk out of here with Lucia and you never see me again. Silence. Then, stand down. All units, stand down. The absolute trust in that command that he'd risk everything, because I asked cut deeper than any betrayal. Smart girl. Lucia lowered the gun slightly. Now we can talk, like adults. Here's how this works. You come with me, we disappear, and the files stay buried. You get a new life far from all this, and Dante gets to keep his empire intact. Everyone wins. Except I lose everything. My voice was surprisingly steady. My mother's care, the restaurant, my freedom to choose my own path. I just trade one cage for another. At least you'd be alive. Something flickered in her eyes, genuine concern. Maybe, beneath all the manipulation. Do you really think you can survive in his world? Look at what's happened in just 3 days. Violence, death, betrayal. And now you know he killed our father. He's not our father. The words came out hard. James Patterson was a sperm donor who abandoned Mom before I was born. He chose witness protection over his family. That doesn't earn him my grief. Lucia's expression cracked slightly. He was still blood. Blood doesn't mean what you think it means. I took a step forward. You taught me that when you faked your death and left Mom and me to struggle alone. When you sold information about me to buy your way into Dante's world. When you pointed a gun at me to force me to choose your version of safety. I'm trying to save you. No. Another step. You're trying to control me, just like everyone else in this goddamn city. But here's what you don't understand. Lucia, I don't need saving. I need the truth. I turned slightly, speaking directly to where I knew Dante was listening. Did you kill James Patterson? A pause that lasted forever. Then, no, but I watched him die and did nothing to stop it. I was 17, following my father's orders. He was already bleeding out when we arrived. I could have called for help. I didn't. The honesty devastated me more than any lie could have. Did you know who I was before you offered me the contract? No. His voice broke. I swear on everything I am, Mara. I learned about your father 3 months ago, long after I'd already decided I wanted you. It complicated things, made me question my own motives, but it didn't change what I felt. And these documents Lucia has? The surveillance? I had someone check your background after I learned about Patterson. Standard procedure. But I never watched you, never followed you. The first time I saw you was that night in the restaurant. Everything I told you was true. I believed him. God help me, I believed him. Lucia, I turned back to my sister. Give me the files. What? The files. The evidence. Whatever leverage you think you have, give it to me. Now, she laughed. Why would I do that? Because I'm giving you a choice you never gave me. I moved closer, fearless now. Walk away. Take the money Dante offered. Leave the city. Start over somewhere clean. Or stay. Release those files. And watch everything burn, including yourself. Because if this goes public, you're implicated too. Your husband, his family, everyone you've built a life with. We all go down together. You're bluffing. Try me. I held out my hand. Last chance, Lucia. Choose family or choose destruction. For a long moment, we stared at each other, two sisters who'd never really known each other, connected by blood and separated by everything else. She pulled out a USB drive and placed it in my palm. You're making a mistake, she said quietly. He'll destroy you eventually. They all do. Maybe. I closed my fingers around the drive. But it'll be my choice. My mistake to make. Lucia looked at me one last time, and I saw something that might have been regret. Then she turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. I stood alone in the warehouse, holding the key to everyone's destruction. Footsteps behind me. I turned to find Dante standing there, flanked by his men but focused only on me. I should hate you, I said. I know. I should walk away and never look back. Yes, but I can't. Tears finally broke free, streaming down my face. Because despite everything, despite the violence and the lies and the impossible darkness of your world, I love you. And I choose this. I choose you. I choose us. He crossed the distance between us in 3 strides and pulled me into his arms, holding me like I was the only thing keeping him anchored to earth. "I don't deserve you," he whispered against my hair. "No," I agreed. "But you're stuck with me anyway." I pulled back enough to look at him, this beautiful, broken, impossibly dangerous man who'd given me everything and taken nothing I wasn't willing to give. "We do this together," I said. "No more secrets, no more half-truths. If I'm going to be yours, you have to be mine too. Completely. Deal." He kissed me, soft and reverent. "Where do we start?" I held up the USB drive. "We burn this. Then we build something new. The restaurant, the community programs, everything I dreamed about. We take your dark world and we find the light in it." That simple? That complicated? I smiled through my tears. "But worth it. You're worth it." Epilogue. 6 months later. The grand opening of Chen's community kitchen was everything I'd imagined, and more. The restaurant sparkled with new renovations, filled with people from the neighborhood, families who needed a hot meal, kids who needed a safe space, elderly folks who needed community. No one was turned away. No one went hungry. Dante stood beside me, his hand warm in mine, watching everything I'd built from desperate dreams and stolen moments. "You did this," he said quietly. "We did this." I squeezed his hand. "Together." Mom was there too, in her wheelchair, but smiling, really smiling for the first time in months. The new treatment was working. Slowly, but working. Lucia sent a card. No return address, just 3 words. "Stay safe, sister." Maybe someday we'd find our way back to each other. Maybe not, but at least she was alive and free. I'd learned that in this world, that was enough. "Ready?" Dante asked as the photographer gestured for us to cut the ribbon. I looked at him, my monster, my love, my impossible choice that had become my greatest truth. "Ready." We cut the ribbon together, and the crowd cheered, and for one perfect moment, everything was light and hope and possibility. The darkness would come again. It always did, but we'd face it together, and that made all the difference.